The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.
One of the best guys. It's 9 after the hour, 7:09. Please go to the website, 710knus.com, and follow along at home. You can see these 1968 apps. Now, as you and the greats have said, Ann's 65 passport, like so many other things, has been destroyed. But
right.
if we look at these two, the 68 app that's up on our website, 710knus.com, there's 2 pages.
Yes.
Now, we have Stanley Ann's 68 app to extend her 65 passport, which has been destroyed, for an additional 2 years. That's
right.
That's the first figure. On the second page of the app, Ann moves to exclude her son.
Correct.
And that's where the name
Soybaka shows up. Yes.
What does it mean?
It means that she was trying to get a separate passport for her son.
Why that name?
Because he must have had an Indonesian identity at this time, probably legal identity, to have Soybaka attached to his name. And Soybaka, if you analyze the Indonesian language, it really means son of Soetoro.
And Soetoro was the guy that she was married to.
Right. The bar is very much like, Bin Laden or
right.
John's son.
Right. Yeah.
It's when you say Soy Bar, well, that's son of.
I see.
Okay,
what's interesting, remember when we talked about him attending the 2 Muslim schools, and they weren't, it's important to say, that you had to be, how do I say this? Number one, you had to be a citizen of Indonesia.
Yes.
And then number 2, you had to be a Muslim.
Yes.
To go, whether it's public school or private school, you had.
And in fact, that's right. And Wayne Madsen, when he was over there, brought me back to laws in Indonesian. I've had them translated. It was very clear that the only way Obama, as a child, got into the schools that he was enrolled in Indonesia was if Soetoro, his stepfather, could take him over and say, "This is my legal son."
Right. And so
he wasn't going to get in the schools unless he was an Indonesian citizen.
Yeah. So and they weren't madrasas. That's important.
They were not madrasas.
But they were.
These were.
Yeah.
Well, they were. One was even a Catholic school.
That's right.
But they offered Islamic instruction, and Obama was enrolled in the Islamic instruction in the Catholic school.
Much like this effort now to make Muslim holidays into American public schools, which is being pressed on Barack Obama right now. But the same thing is true. They were Muslim schools. You had to be a citizen of Indonesia, and you had to be at least proclaimed to be a Muslim. So
this was after the period of 1965 when the Suharto revolution had a coup d'etat. Really had over a CIA engineered coup d'etat.
Right.
And by the way, Subak is really. He is identified with CIA by Sukarno, who's overthrown. And when the revolution, the Muslims took over. They killed the PKI, which were the communists. They killed Christians. And so the surviving power in Indonesia after 1965 was Muslim. And they restated the laws so that, you couldn't, they really were anti-Christian at this point.
So if I'm going to come back to the...
And by the way, have you seen the picture of the founder?
Yes.
As a young man, how remarkably he looks like
he looks like Obama.
I know. I have not figured that out at all.
It looks
resemblance is uncanny.
Jerry Corsi is with us. Our website, 710knus.com. You'll see, first of all, to make the case, the certificate of live birth, where the race of the father says African, it's impossible. Now, the other one is the second page of the application. And both of the pages are up there, and this is good work by this fellow, Nick Chase. And Nick Chase gets into freedom of information and because you have to know exactly what to ask for. So they did. So the Barack Hussein Obama, is he Soetoro? Who is he? Surbaka from his passport. And the item's been crossed out. Now, one of the things that we're going to listen to here in the next guest is that maybe on, on the advice from the consulate, and he's 7 at the time, so it would leave him passportless, so it doesn't happen. Is that fair?
It's possible, Peter, but as I look at that passport application, she followed the instructions to get a separate passport, and I would think she got a separate passport because little Barry starts traveling on his own back to the United States, and she would have had to have a passport for him.
Okay. But he would travel on an Indonesian passport.
I think she got him an Indonesian passport, or she may have attempted to get him a U.S. passport as an Indonesian citizen. It might have been denied.
Now, remember when he made the speech, and no one ever knew who he traveled with and who he went with when he went to Pakistan. They were his roommates at Columbia, and remember the Colombian policy at the time was foreign nationals lived together, roomed together, and he lived with two Pakistani Muslim guys at Columbia. We're led to believe that, but those records have been suppressed. Having said that, then he says, well, he goes to Pakistan. Remember, he makes the speech in San Francisco that he, quote, went back to Indonesia first to, quote, visit his mother. Well, his mother wasn't there. She was already back in Hawaii. She was not there. So that was a lie. And then it leads the proto-Obama people to say he went to Jakarta to get his passport renewed because traveling to Pakistan at that time for an American citizen, it wasn't illegal, but it was advised not to go.
Well,
and did he go there? Did he go there on his citizenship passport from Indonesia? And he's a grown man.
See, first of all, I think that one thing about Obama's records of himself and his discussions of his life, it's all messed up. Obama frequently makes mistakes in his personal history. Janie Scott's book says Obama went back to Indonesia any number of times to visit the mother through college. My guess has always been that Obama had an Indonesian passport because of the way he was traveling. He was going to Singapore. He went to Pakistan. It appears he went to India. Obama seems to have traveled very widely and not fully documented. In other words, we don't have the full record of all the trips Obama made in these, years through college or through, maybe even through Harvard.
Or who he went with.
Or who he went with, or what he was doing, or, or what passport he traveled on, because we don't have Obama's. We have some of the mother's passports, but we don't have any of Obama's passports except for the most current.
And that's the one that was even, remember that picture? And when they showed it, and they distorted the numbers, there was craziness.
And remember also that the current head of the CIA, kind of Brennan, his private security force was found breaking into the passport records in 2008 before the election, getting Barack Obama's, and they grabbed some, I believe, from Clinton and Hillary and from McCain. But the report coming out was it was done to sanitize Obama's passport records. And of course,
we've seen it before.
Brennan is now head of the CIA, was brought into the White House as a counter-terrorism expert, is himself fluent in Islam, has given endless speeches in support of Islam, widely speculated he may have at some point in his life converted to Islam. Brennan's heading the CIA. All of this stuff has never been fully explained. That's the problem, is that these questions have been raised, they've never been answered. We still do not have Barack Obama's passport records. We still do not have his travel records. We don't know.
Medical records, school records. Loan records. All of it.
All of it. None of that's ever been forthcoming. So, and probably much of it's been destroyed. Or attempted to be destroyed. This is, looked at objectively and from a distance, Barack Obama appears to be like a CIA-created person with a fictional identity or partially fictionalized identity that is really undiscernible.
Jerry Corsi is with us. What would you leave us with this morning? Now, we put up on the website, 710knus.com. Jerry, were you ever able to find anyone in the time period 5-6 years before, 5-6 years after, born in Hawaii, who had a father's race of African on their birth certificate?
No, that's still unique. And, the two things about this whole case, Fuddy refused to release original documents out of the file. We've seen we've seen computer printouts and modern-day computer verifications of birth. We have not seen the original records even today. And secondly, the hospital. First, the family said it was one hospital, then it was Queens Medical. Then they switched it over to Kapiolani. Despite repeated efforts, I've even gone to Kapiolani myself. Kapiolani refuses to show any records, and I've been told no hospital in Hawaii appears to have original records of Ann Dunham, and there's no photographs of Ann Dunham being pregnant.
Yeah.
This, the INS. Yeah. The INS did not believe that Barack Obama Sr. was the father. The two never lived together as husband and wife.
Never were married.
Never were married. No marriage certificate ever been found.
She leaves for Seattle when the baby's about 2 weeks of age.
And lied about it, and even Janie Scott's book kind of fudges that, but grudgingly admits that Ann Dunham was not in Hawaii when Barack Obama Sr. gives interviews, doesn't mention when he's in Hawaii, doesn't mention that he is married or has a child. None
of his colleagues ever
forgets to put his child and his wife on his passport visa extensions. I mean, it goes on and on and on, but the credibility that Barack Obama Sr. is really the father is highly thin, and there is I've always maintained there is some deep birth mystery about who Obama is, and we have all the evidence that a mystery exists, but we don't have yet the solution of it. And seeing these pictures from Indonesia is another element in the puzzle.
Let me do this. We have a time constraint this morning.
Yes,
on Monday I'm going to have you back.
Sure.
And we'll see.
I'm going to try to publish this article on Monday.
We'll read, and then I'll have you back on Monday, Doctor. Have a great weekend. You're such a worker.
The only people who don't want to disclose the truth are people with something to hide.